Okay, we are live for another Ovadia Heart Health live stream. Today, we're privileged to have as our guest Maurice, who is also known by LA Native Patriot on X. He's got a big following. He's got over 100,000 followers, and he's got a really compelling story. And we first, noticed his personal metabolic health transformation. He he made a tweet, a post, I guess we call them nowadays, um, and I am just going to throw it up on the screen just to give a little background. Um, Maurice, why don't you tell us about this, Maurice? This is really fascinating, and I think this will appeal to a lot of the people that are watching this.
Yeah, I mean, this was something that my wife and I decided to do as a couple, and I mean, thank God for my wife. She's also on Twitter. She's got Lady Patriot is her handle, but we noticed that we were just overweight. We were getting sick all the time, always feeling like we needed a nap. And I have a very physical job. I work anywhere from 50 to 85 hours a week back then, and I was still gaining weight and I was still feeling terrible. And so we decided, I've been looking into the carnivore diet for a long time. I've heard a lot of really positive things about it. I've always really enjoyed steak and meat. And so back in 2022, I was sober that entire year just because I wanted to see if it would make a difference in how my joints felt and how I felt in general. And there were a couple benefits to it, but the benefits I felt from this carnivore diet were uh, it was night and day compared to how I felt before. I didn't realize how bad I was feeling until I felt good again.
Hey, Maurice, but tell me what was the instigating factor that got you to decide to do that? Like, it's a big decision, and what motivated you to make that move?
Well, I've been in shape my entire life. I've been uh, athletic, I guess you could say. I played football in high school, and I just always felt like I was more of an athlete. And I guess getting into my 30s, I kind of realized that, I'm it's okay to put on a couple pounds, but once I got up to a point where, none of my pants were really fitting anymore, and it didn't seem right. And of course, my wife, she didn't want to gain weight either, and we both wanted to get healthy. And the carnivore diet, based on everything that I've seen over the years in so many people trying different kinds of diets, the most beneficial one that I saw with the best results was the carnivore diet. And so I was like, you know what, let's just try it for a couple months and see what happens. And in that 3 month period where we stopped drinking alcohol completely, I stopped smoking. We went hardcore carnivore diet. My entire diet consisted of steak, hamburger, eggs, bacon, salmon, and um, I think that's pretty much it. But I had plenty of water and electrolytes. I lost 35 pounds. The All of my inflammation disappeared in my entire body. My Back in 2020, I was diagnosed with osteoarthritis in both of my hips. I actually have a cane that I used to use. I actually got it right here. So there was a when I would go to the fair or I knew I'd be standing for a long time. I actually bought a really nice cane because my hips were getting to a point where they would hurt all the time, whether I was sitting, whether I was standing. I was just in so much pain. And so back then they told me that I had osteoarthritis in both my hips, and I was on a one-way street to both uh, hip replacements. Not once did they ever bring up diet as a cure for it. The only cure that they said was eventually hip replacements, and that I should quit my job and be less hard on
Tell
my hips.
what kind of work do you do?
I change industrial tires out of a service truck. So I basically go to various companies' yards and assess their tires and take care of them, or I'll go out and do road calls if they get a tire blown out on the side of the road. So this will be generally semi trucks and not so much passenger cars, but just the bigger units.
So it's hard work, and
Yeah.
it sort of shows us that just because you do hard, heavy work does not mean that you're going to have what you need to be in good shape, and you can really slip both in metabolic health and in body fat while doing heavy, hard work, and it's more than just exercise.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the exercise that I had done, the exercise actually in that picture that you showed in those 3 months, neither my wife or I went to the gym or changed our exercise habits. We were doing the exact same thing. The only thing that we changed was our diets. Now, granted, I will say that I was able to run around with my son again. We started running and playing catch, and I was able to actually be a little bit more active. So I guess that's a little part of it, but
Mhm.
I didn't actually actively go out and try to get in shape. It was just strictly a diet change, and then everything for myself and my wife started to feel better.
Tell me about the fact that your wife decided to join you. Was that something that was just spontaneous, or you tell me what went into that decision and how it might have helped the process for you?
I think, well, it's everything to me because with her, she's a stay-at-home wife, so she watches our kids and she cooks all the meals, and without her cooking all the meals, this would have definitely been a lot more difficult because every night she pre-prepares my breakfast and lunch the next day, because I can be out from 5 a.m. until 8 p.m. So she makes me a big healthy lunch and breakfast, and um, as far as her deciding to do it, is she wanted to get healthy too. It was she had two kids, and was, you know everybody says that it's normal for women to gain a bunch of weight after they have kids, but she wanted to lose it and get back to what she was before, and it didn't take long once we completely cut out carbs and gluten and all that. She's always kind of been sensitive to gluten, and when we first met back in 2016, I kind of thought that was like, I didn't know much about it. And I was like, gluten, like, you're not allergic to gluten. That's not a real thing. And then it turns out I think everybody's kind of allergic to it to some extent. But yeah, it's been everything, having her support, and having both of us dive into this and support each other has made this entire process easier. So not only do we feel better, but we can kind of bounce the way we feel off each other, and kind of build each other up. Because there are intense sugar cravings at times, and when we go out to family events or anything like that, it's a lot easier to have your support structure there, supporting not only yourself, but it's your responsibility to support them as well. So that's actually been a huge part of this.
So tell me a little bit. You've already specifically told me about some symptoms, how you feel improving in your life overall for your family. Any other things that you've observed as to how these changes have made the life better for everyone in your family?
My son noticed that I don't like to take naps on the weekend anymore,
Oh,
and so
that's
that's a big change, and because it was something that I didn't even realize that I was needing. With how much I worked, I always thought that it was just the amount of work that I had that was causing me to be so darn tired on the weekends, and that around midday or so I'd always get that really tired feeling. So I don't want to play right now. I want to rest and recover. So because I got another work week coming up, but that was one of the first things my son noticed, was that uh, you know you don't nap anymore, and you want to go outside more, and play more, and that made me really, really happy, to kind of realize, I mean, a little bit ashamed because of what was happening before, but in realizing that that's changing now, it did make me happy, and make me want to continue doing it.
so. How old are you now?
I'm 33 years old.
Okay, well, I think you picked a good age to nip this in the bud and make some changes. I could tell you right now that I did not make my own personal lifestyle changes until I was 54, and almost paid a steep price for it. But fortunately, a lot of aspects of your body are forgiving if you make the change in time. So so let's see. Do you tell me a little bit about the alcohol. I don't know how much you were drinking before, but you did you did point that out that let's see, this is earlier this month, right? That you made this
Yep.
post.
Yeah.
So you're going on 4 months of sobriety, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone through spurts. We actually took a couple months off. Those pictures were from April of when we first started the carnivore
Ah,
diet. And then
got it.
during the holiday season, we actually did drink a couple times.
Hmm.
And we definitely notice, both of us do, how much of a drag it puts on your body. Because before, I was drinking a couple drinks a night. In all reality, yeah, I mean, it got to a point like if we had alcohol in the house, I was going to drink some. I wasn't gonna drink till I was sloppy or anything like that. But if there was alcohol in the house, I was gonna drink it. And so we decided to just stop buying alcohol. We tried the we'll only drink on the weekends thing, but then we kind of found a way to make excuses to drink throughout the week at times. And so we were just like, you know what? We just need to cut out alcohol entirely. And that way we just don't have to worry about it, because now that when we do enjoy alcohol, it's a little bit here and there. And it is just so significantly different being able to experience your day-to-day life without having that constant headache or the drain that you feel. Because when we drink now, um, for the next 2 or 3 days, you can feel like a heavy drag on your mental. And at I know that for a significant portion of my life, that was my daily life. It was just I was always being dragged behind, and I just assumed that it was normal, which it's not. And all of a sudden, I feel like I'm 18 years old again, where I was, could run outside with my kid and play catch and make football moves like I haven't done in a decade. And I mean, I know I'm not old, but in all reality, when you're working 80 hours a week, back to back, and you're drinking alcohol and you're eating fast food, or Wendy's, and drinking soda pop and things like that, it puts a wear on you that you just assume is kind of a normal part of getting older. You wake up with creaks and pains, and then it just kind of gets worse over time. But with doing this diet, all of that went away. And I don't know if it'd be the same for everybody. I can't say that it would, but all of my pains went away. My creaks went away. When I get up, I don't go, "Ugh," I don't do that anymore. My hips don't hurt. I can is sitting at a 90-degree angle. When I had my hips, uh yeah, when I had my hips at a 90-degree angle, it would hurt my hips. So I would always tend to slouch. I'd slide forward in my chair, and I'd always have my hips kind of pushed out, because that helped alleviate some pain. And now I don't have to worry about any of that, because I just feel good all the time.
So tell me a little bit about going carnivore, and did you have any challenges? Was it easy? Was there anything that you had to get past? I know there people talk about uh, keto flu. Were you actually in ketosis
Oh,
at any of this point? Tell me about the experience, and what it was like, and if there were challenges, how you dealt with them.
so jumping into the carnivore diet, the first thing you notice is intense sugar cravings, and I think that kind of doubles up with uh, quitting alcohol as well, because with the way your body processes alcohol, it kind of processes it as sugar. And yeah, I had really intense sugar cravings, but that's easy to get over when you just like I just stopped going to gas stations. If I go to a gas station, it's strictly just to get gas at the pump and then not go inside because I had everything I needed in my truck. I had excess water. I had black coffee was my drink of choice. I've always liked black coffee, but that's the only drug that I continue to do is caffeine. I didn't add anything to it. No sugar, no creamer or anything like that. I stayed away from dairy. I know a lot of people they will do dairy with it, but other than that, um, there's you kind of have a digestive issue for the first couple weeks while your body adjusts to only eating meat. Everything kind of runs through you, so you got to be a little careful with that. But once that's over, that's okay. And then the keto flu is real for me. My wife experienced it a little bit. I kind of felt like I had a really bad flu. I had no idea what was going on. I thought I was incredibly sick. I didn't have a fever, but it felt like I had one, and I was nauseous. And I even posted on Twitter. I was like, "Hey, what is this? Why am I sick?" And everybody was like, "It's the keto flu, man." I looked it up, and I was like, "Yeah, sure enough." One day later, I felt phenomenal. Once you get past that hump and you are fully on in ketosis on carnivore, then you feel great, and it's just back to back to back every day. I go to sleep easy. I wake up easier. I feel good all the time.
That's awesome. How long did that keto flu last? Was it relatively short? Did you say like a day
All
or
day.
two? Or okay, oh, day.
It
Okay.
was yeah, it was yeah, it was a full day. So it and I had to work that day too, so it was miserable. It was actually it really sucked to kind of get through that because you have a horrible headache, and with being nauseous, you don't really want to eat anything, but you know you have to, and so that does suck. But it's just one day. It's like a hangover basically is what it felt like. You just had to work through it, and then once you get through it, then you kind of have that. I've heard it described as like super energy, right? You
Hmm.
just have like consistent energy all day long.
So before you made this choice of changing your dietary your lifestyle, had you gone on so-called diets before, things that were intended to make short-term improvements or whatever, and tell me how it's different when I presume this is what you would view as a long-term, permanent lifestyle change now that you're on. How's that? How's that different? And what do you foresee for the future?
Well, I used to be really into fitness. Back when I was 18 years old, I graduated high school at, I was 5'10", 165 pounds, and back then I ate everything and anything I could to try and gain weight because I was skinny. I had a six pack, and I was really athletic looking, but I didn't have the size that I wanted. I wanted to be 185 pounds at least, and look like a man and not a kid anymore. So I did a ton of research back then. I was always into what's healthy. When do you take creatine? How much sugar should you really take in? And a lot of that stuff, looking into the various diets, that because so many people were saying you should have chicken and rice and things like that, and that never felt satisfying to me. I've noticed that if when I eat really fatty steaks or really fatty hamburger, that's actually the most satisfying to me. So I've always kind of been that way. Is I've always bought the fattiest kind of meat, the fattiest kind of hamburger, and the fattiest steaks. I always thought that was where all the flavor was, and it turns out that I think that excuse me, I think that fat is really really important for you, and the entire movement of them telling us that the egg yolks were bad for you, and that the less fat you intake the better. uh that just it never sat right with me because I always really enjoyed eggs, and I always really enjoyed fatty meat, and I mean the proof is in the pudding now with the drastic changes that I rapidly went through. And but I've always been into health and fitness ever since I graduated high school. But now that it's a permanent lifestyle change, and recognizing just how bad most food is for you, I don't think I can ever just go back to how I was living before, because I'm hyper aware of how my body reacts to food now. When I eat a heavy carb filled meal or white bread or anything like that, I can definitely feel the difference and feel how much it slows my body down, and then how it feels like I'm dragging. Now that I know what speed I'm supposed to be going at and how my body's supposed to be feeling again, it sucks going back and having a cheat meal and then realizing that cheat meal definitely wasn't worth it. It didn't taste as good as I remember, and I don't feel good anymore.
Do you ever suffer from cravings and hunger? And if so, how do you deal with it? Because you talk about is it enough to just know that it's going to leave you feeling worse and that you're just able to stay off of it, or just sometimes slip?
I'd say, well, my wife makes me plenty of food, so whenever I'm hungry, I just I always
Perfect.
have food available to eat. So having that the food ready, because once you start eating uh, meat, the craving of sugar and that stuff goes away
Mm.
entirely because all of a sudden you just get satisfied. And it's like a short impulsive craving that if you just avoid, if you're able to avoid that because you have other healthy snacks available and ready that you can have a little bit of, all of a sudden those cravings tend to go away. So that's the way that I've dealt with it, or at least found out. That's the easiest way for me to deal with it is whenever I get cravings, I'll take a couple bites. My wife makes this beautiful egg and hamburger scramble, puts a
Ooh.
bunch of salt and pepper on it, and it's perfect to eat throughout the day.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, that's my kind of food. Burger
Yeah.
and eggs and cheddar cheese. And you say you don't do a lot of dairy, but
Mm-mm.
um, oh, okay. So I was curious with the number of followers you have on X. I'm guessing that people must having. Oh, by the way, somebody asked me to put the picture of your before after back on the screen again. I definitely think that some people are probably joining us. I can see that we've got over 1,000 people taking this live stream in. Um, so
Wonderful.
let me get that back. This is Maurice, Native Patriots before and after, and this is a relatively short period of time from April 2024 to July 2024. He and
Same
his wife,
clothes.
same clothes, and very impressive transformation. Um, Sugar is poison. Grains are destroying you. Eat meat, drink water, get electrolytes in your system, and you'll be healthy. I think a lot of people could take away some very valuable points from that. Um, so with all the followers that you have, do you get asked a lot for your thoughts, your advice, how to do this? And what is your response to people? A lot of people say, I can't do it. I would never be able to give up pasta, or I couldn't give up bread. Um, you have any sort of standard lines that you hear yourself repeating over and over again?
Well, there's a cost for everything. Um, Whether you think if you can't afford, like a lot of people say that they can't afford the carnivore diet, and what I noticed is once I stopped buying alcohol and I stopped buying cigarettes and I stopped buying energy drinks and all that stuff, all of a sudden the cost of the carnivore diet plummeted because we wouldn't buy a bunch of extra stuff at the grocery store. The impulsive buys when you go to the grocery store and you're all of a sudden, buying something that you really don't need but you kind of want at the time. We don't do that anymore. So we actually have a way more strict budget on what we spend on food. And I guess with my followers, I do my best to lead by example, and I'm not gonna try to give you advice on something where I've never done anything like that in my life, and I don't have any, I don't think that I'm right all the time. Obviously, I just do my best to lead by example, and so far it seems to have worked out pretty well.
Um, well, that's awesome. The I was curious if either you or your wife have had any lab work, particularly like before and after, any concerns that your dietary changes might have helped you with. Just wondering if that's been a factor at all on your journey.
I haven't had much blood work done. I mean, the only thing, so I had cancer when I was 14 years old. I had thyroid cancer. And so I go get a yearly check in. They check my uh, thyroid levels, I guess. But all that's ran synthetically. I take a pill daily for that. But they've never brought up anything as far as anything else. And I've never had high blood pressure. I just did my DOT physical the other day. I think it was like 116 over 64. So my blood pressure is perfect, and I've never shown any other signs of health issues uh, since going on this diet, and I don't really feel the need to because of how much significantly better I feel. There, it almost seems useless to go to the doctor and then have them compare me to, whatever they decide is normal.
Hmm.
Because I mean, the doctor would look at me and say that I'm, according to the body mass index, like I'm overweight. I'm 195 pounds, but a lot of it's muscle. I got a little bit. I still got a little bit of fat on me, but at 5'10", they say I should be like 160, bone and skin, and so I don't like being compared to that stuff. It's like I feel really good all the time. So I'm probably doing okay.
I have a hunch that you are. Uh, yeah, I'm also one of those people that's in the slightly overweight category. Not anywhere near as much as I was 9 years ago when I was 278 pounds. Um, but yeah, you make some great points here. Tell me a little bit about the cancer. Did that have a profound impact on your life? Did it? Tell me anything that you might take away from that, because that's as someone who also had a cancer experience. It had some pretty profound effects on my life. I'm wondering what that does to a 14-year-old.
It made me realize that I that one of the main things I wanted to be in this life was a father.
Mm,
I wanted to have kids, and I mean, and at 14 years old, I kind of, I had a couple years of just screwing around, but I always knew that I wanted to get married and have kids, and I wanted to be a dad. And I realized that when I had cancer at 14 is you because I had a fairly aggressive kind of cancer, and it came out of nowhere because typically thyroid cancer it's more common in older women, and it's typically genetically passed down. None of both sides of my family have ever had cancer, and I'm a boy and young, so it really came out of nowhere, and it was a very very aggressive kind of cancer. I don't remember the exact name of it, but uh, I had to go through radiation treatment, and they pulled me out of school, and I was bone skinny for a little while. I remember being like 145 pounds, and at 14, I may have been 5'9", 5 foot. I was almost full grown at that point. I might have been full, like as far as height goes, but I
hmm
was bone and skin for quite some time, and it just kind of reset my goals in life, where I was like, yeah, I want to be a father. I want to have kids, and that's what I want to do. So
Well, that's pretty powerful. Like how was it a frightening experience? Did you worry about whether was your did you feel like it was an existential situation where you might not make it, or did they tell you that things were I don't have no idea what kind of odds you were facing or what it did, but I know for me there was like an element of gratitude even before I finished my treatments, even not knowing what was going to be. I started taking things far less for granted and savoring every day. Love to hear your perspective.
I've always been a fairly positive person. I think I get it from my mother. She's always had a really really great outlook. She said that there was one time where I had dipped my head, and it was only for a couple of seconds, and it was when the doctor. I don't remember exactly what the doctor had said, but they were basically telling me that I would have to go through a couple bouts of radiation treatment in order to get this cured, because it was already trying to spread to my other lymph nodes and to my lungs and things like that. So they were really concerned about it, and um, but I always felt like this was something that, like, it wasn't going to be a problem. It's kind of hard to describe, but it felt like this is something that I'm supposed to go through,
hmm
and if I hang my head about this, then it's going to make it so much worse. So I just felt like it felt like something that I had to go through, and I was definitely going to make it through it. I never had the worry that it was going to take me out. Um, it didn't feel like it was going to happen, and I mean, I guess I was right, but I think a positive mindset can actually help. It can help heal you. I think that's the best way to put it, is just having, because at that time I wasn't necessarily um, overtly religious. I believed in a great spirit, but I didn't fully understand who I was talking to when I would pray, and but I really felt like it was just a necessary part of the journey, and that once I get over this hurdle, then I'll be okay. But there was one time where I did hang my head for a minute, and then I just popped back up and said, "Okay, what do we got to do to get past this?" And that was it. That was the only time my mom ever said that I wasn't positive about the experience.
Well, that's it's very interesting to hear your take on it, and it seems like you have a great attitude that probably probably worked in your favor while you were going through cancer, and I'm guessing it's working in your favor just as you go through your life. The impact that you seem to be having on other people is quite immense, I would say. And tell me a little bit about your attitudes about that. I mean, like, it seems like you have a really upbeat, um, giving attitude, um, and you talk about leading by example. Um, uh, Talk about what motivates you to do what you do on X, and are you on any other social media platforms?
Not really. I mean, I have a YouTube channel that I'm kind of starting up again, but and it's at Native Patriot, the same
Okay.
tag. But other than that, I have an Instagram. Basically, I made the other platforms just so my name wouldn't get stolen, and so
Hmm.
people wouldn't say things in my name. Um, but I'd say that I live my life in a grateful manner. I try to have an attitude of gratitude, and I believe that if more people were more grateful for everything that they had or were given the opportunities to do, then it could change a lot in our society, because there's so many, our culture, it seems to be an attitude of entitlement. And I've never felt that I deserve something because I was born as a Native American. I was raised off of the reservation by my white mother and my white stepfather. My biological father ran out when I was 3 years old to go do drugs for the next 20 years. He's been sober for uh, the last 5 or 6 years now. So I mean, congrats to him. But growing up, I had a white stepfather make a huge impact on my life. He basically came in and adopted these two little brown kids, me and my sister, and he took us in as his own, and raised us in the best way that he could. And I mean, I'm just so grateful for so many things in my life, and especially I think with having that cancer, I think that helped as well. In just being grateful for everything that I have and the moments that I get with my family, and um, that leads on to my cultural beliefs as well, because looking throughout history, you see that the living in the times of where the Native Americans ran this land, it was extremely brutal. And you can look into a lot of the stories where the the life wasn't bunnies and flowers and rainbows. It was the same as the rest of the world. It was warfare and slavery and genocide and constant battles. And so I look at today and I'm like, man, I have a pretty good life compared to that. There's a lot of really, really great things. I get to walk amongst all my peers as equals, and we've been given rights under God, that it's the responsibility of our government to recognize those rights. And maybe if we get back to appreciating a little bit more about what we have, and the opportunities that we're given, and we can kind of spread that attitude around, then maybe, just maybe, if enough of us get our shit together, excuse me my language, if enough of us get our act together, then maybe we can turn this country around from where we're heading.
Well, that brings up a point where I mean, obviously we have hope that a lot of the things with like our medical and nutrition systems will improve, that our food supply will get better. Um, but there is an individual element to this, and number one, a person can take control of their life even when the system is subpar, to say the least. Um, and and just because the system gets better doesn't mean that it's magically going to pull everybody with it. So, and that seems to align with your viewpoint about personal responsibility and taking control. What do you say to when you look at a society out there? You don't have to even look at a study. You just can look down the street and see that probably getting close to like 85% of the population is either overweight or obese. Huge percentage are either type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes, and more are headed that way. Um, do you have any thoughts about that in general? Like, a lot of people think that they're shackled to this unhealthy existence, and you've shown that it's possible to take control and turn things around. How do you Do you ever try to light a fire under people, getting them to maybe be a little more proactive in their own personal journey?
Absolutely. In fact, this is actually one of the reasons why I really started speaking out, because I think that the only way that we're going to be able to make positive change in this country is from the ground up. I mean, people are all hyped that we elected Trump, and RFK is getting into the business, which is, those are all good things. But as you were saying, if nobody changes their behavior and they just expect somebody else is going to fix it for them, then we're not going to be able to fix this country at all. It literally starts with you at home, and how you handle your own life. Because if you want to see change in this country, then you have to embody it. You have to embody the change you want to see in this world. And I wouldn't be able to criticize the way that people are living if I had my life in shambles. So I've been working diligently to make my life something that other people could look up to. Even if I don't, I don't make that much money. I don't live in some lavish lifestyle. I live in a double wide manufactured home. I got a couple acres out in the woods, which is plenty for me. We have our own space, and I got a beautiful wife that supports me and does everything in her power to make our lives better, and I do the same for her. And we got two wonderful kids, and I mean, life is really, really good. But I know that it's going to be more difficult for my children if I don't do anything. So the responsibility felt like it. There was a During the 2020 lockdowns, it felt like that responsibility fell on my shoulders, and then I was determined to start speaking out and hopefully inspire people to start changing their own lives, and then eventually that'll bleed out. You never know how far those ripples are going to spread out. And I didn't expect, I'm from a small town of 2,500 people. And so having 167,000 followers, it blows my mind, still to this day. But, I try to be as responsible as I can, and be worthy of having those followers.
Um, you provide some great information. I love your attitude. We have gone um, longer, I think, on this live stream than we have on any of our others, and we've had probably close to 2 dozen so far, and we're going to keep doing these once a week. I will invite anybody that's watching this on YouTube or our LinkedIn account. You can put your questions in. If you have any comments, you can put them in. If anyone has any questions, we will get to them. We probably won't be able to stay on much longer, but uh, I just I'm really enjoying this. I mean, you have some inspiring. You have an inspiring story. You're definitely changing lives. Do you get a lot of messages, a lot of questions, DMs, people asking for help, for advice, for opinions? Is that something that happens a lot?
Quite a bit. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I get
besides
a lot of direct messages. I mean,
besides for
it's
the
almost,
people, besides for the people trying to sell you stuff.
yeah. There's so many people out there that actually have genuine questions, and it does feel really good that I can connect to, I mean, people from all around the country and some all around the world. It's quite fascinating because there's so many similarities between, uh, you know, from where I'm at in Washington State to somebody in Florida, and it's I just think that it's kind of amazing that we've been given a platform, and can say these things. And big thanks to Elon Musk for actually making this possible, because I mean, without X, there's no way that I would have been able to even make it this far. I would have been banned immediately just for saying men can't be women. I mean, something as simple as that was getting people banned like crazy. So, and I try to be as honest as I can and upfront, and I think that's made this journey a lot easier. Is when you don't have to lie, and remember those lies, it makes it a lot easier being consistent. And I think that's what a lot of my followers have seen. It's just been a consistent, uh, you know, small town hardworking American that wants to see this country do better. And we started the entire Patriots Prayer Network. When I say we, the co-creator Eddie, we started a podcast earlier this year and decided to start a network because we wanted to help give more people voices, and spread as much of the standard American voice out that we could, because there's so many smart people in this country that haven't had the voice or the means to be able to get their voice heard. And so if we can be the step that can get somebody noticed, then I would love to do that. So I just think that there's a lot more good people in this country than we've been told. Even though there's a lot of depraved things in our society, a lot of that's coming from the top down, and a lot of the people that I interact with are good people, and deserve more than what they're being shown and what they're getting today.
Before we go, can you tell us if you have any sort of goals for the next 5 years, 10 years? Do you have any vision of what you're hoping to accomplish? And obviously you're building what sounds like a great family, and obviously you have your kids to, that's a large part of your future. But it's beyond that. This footprint that you're building on X. Any other, and also any health goals or anything else that comes to mind that you have on your bucket list, even at the young age of your early 30s?
Well, my main goal in life is to have a 50th anniversary with my wife. So I have 45 years left to go on that. Um, and then uh, as far as business wise, I would like to make the Patriots Prayer Network into a legit business. I guess some would say similar to what like the Daily Wire is, where they can host different podcasts and bring people up. I would really, really like to be able to lift as many voices up as I possibly can, as many good, hardworking, everyday Americans that just want their voices to be heard because they have a good story to tell. I would really like to do that, and maybe meet Trump. That would be kind of cool. But other than that, it's going to be. I want to get my kids to the age where once they graduate, they're competent, capable, and patriotic Americans that will be able to contribute positively to society. So,
Well, those sound like really lofty goals. I've really enjoyed talking to you, Maurice. Thank you very much for making the time, and I hope that you and your wife and your family all. I wish you the best, and we'd love to talk to you again sometime.
yeah, I'd be down for that. And thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed this conversation.
All right, thanks a lot. I'm going to hit the end, and we will wrap it up. Hope everybody out there now. Gosh, we have up over 1,800 people. I hope you have a great evening, and talk to you later.